A particular privilege today to introduce one of the most amazing debut novels from the subcontinent. It's in fact been called the Great Sri Lankan Novel and has swept all the top prizes in 2012. The writer is Shehan Karunatilaka, and the novel, of course, is not just the great Sri Lankan novel, but possibly the greatest novel written about cricket. It's called Chinaman. It's what won the DSC Prize for Fiction at the Jaipur Literature Festival early this year, and in June, the Commonwealth Book Prize in London. Shehan, absolutely delighted to have you. Chinaman, the original came out in 2010, and it hasn't stopped making waves around the world. Absolutely remarkable first novel because it opens on so many levels. It's just not cricket history. It's a mystery. It's a mystery about a missing cricketer called Pradeep Matthew. It's the story of journalism, or old journalists, particularly sports journalists. Most important of all, it really is what happened in Sri Lanka during the ravaged years of the Civil War. You have a background in advertising, and as a rock musician, what took you into the world of fiction and cricket in particular?
It was luck. It was unanticipated. The idea just hit me, and I wasn't a great cricket fan. I was very much a casual fan. But the idea seemed irresistible that the greatest cricketer of all time could have been unfortunate enough to have played for Sri Lanka during the 1980s, during, as you say, this very turbulent time. So once I had the idea, and my rock musician career didn't go very far, I'd lost my stomach for advertising, and I just wanted to write a short story to amuse myself, but the short story got out of control. Like you say, it was supposed to be a very simple detective story about a drunk sports journalist tracking down a mysterious cricketer, but after many drafts, it became suddenly this big tome about Sri Lanka and the idea of wasted genius, and I just got carried away with it, and I just enjoyed the stories I was collecting, and yeah, it has been a long journey. I remember you were there right at the beginning, 2 years ago when I launched it first at Jaipur, and it's been a slow burn, but it's gone.
Not a slow burn, it's a roaring fire now. But there's a confession in what you said, that you began as not knowing that much about cricket. You're not a kind of cricket-crazed, mad fan like most people in the subcontinent are. What's unique about it is that in the first few pages, you tell your reader that if cricket bores you, if it makes you snore, if you know nothing about this long, dull game, this is the book for you. And then what emerges is this extraordinary chronicle of arcane, long-forgotten facts and cricketers, and of course, the search for Pradeep Matthew, the missing cricketer. So how did this, what was originally a spark, how did this become an obsession to write this very detailed story of long-forgotten facts and histories of cricket and cricketers?
I think it was the narrative voice. That's what I tried writing it for about a year, and I wrote it in the third person initially. Pradeep Matthew was born in '65 and grew up in Colombo, blah blah blah, and I couldn't make it work. And I tried multiple points of view, but when I stumbled on this voice of this sort of this curmudgeonly journalist, alcoholic W.G. Karunatilaka, that's when I realized that the book was a lot bigger than I thought. And I mean, I'm a casual cricket fan. I mean, being a Sri Lankan, being from this part of the world, you can't avoid cricket. And I grew up during the '96 World Cup, which we won, so I was swept up in that moment. But I did realize that if I was going to take on this character, I would have to become a cricket obsessive myself. So for 2 years, that's all I did. I read, watched cricket matches involving Sri Lanka, and I hung out with drunken old men. That was part of the research.
Drunken old men, and one of the great characters is, of course, as you say, the voice of the narrator, Vijay Gamini Karunasena, this rum-addicted, dissolute, 64-year-old sports act, utterly disillusioned, impoverished, who goes in search of the legend or the person of Pradeep Matthew. How did these two characters come together? This mysterious and missing cricketer, this freak but brilliant bowler who has vanished off the face of Sri Lankan cricket history, and this mad, obsessed journalist?
Well, Pradeep is an archetype that exists, I think, in sports fiction. Baseball fiction, great works like Bernard Malamud's The Natural and George Plimpton's Curious Case of Sid Finch. We all have this idea of this mythical talent that emerges, sparkles, and then fades and is never heard of again. So I was aware of this archetype, but then when I looked at Sri Lankan cricket history, I found there were many of these characters who turn up and disappear. So I did a bit of research on it. But I think drafting this, I realized that it wasn't just about cricket and alcoholism. It was actually a story of wasted genius. And when I realized that, that's when the book really took shape, because...
And the wasteland, a country laid to waste by a civil war.
Exactly. So you've got Pradeep on one hand, this unfulfilled genius. You've got W.G. Karnasena, who, again, a brilliant thinker, a brilliant man, who... Life is full of unfulfilled. Life is full of regret.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.